Hey, everybody, welcome back. Craig Schaub here with George Thomas. Our film critic is here with another big summer blockbuster. But before we get into that, I did want to give you an update. I did tell George about my experience a little bit with the Odyssey in 70 millimeter IMAX, which I tell you, George, it is a sight to behold. As Matt Damon said in the film, it's all the things you wanted it to be, and then all the things you wish you never wished for. It was an experience like any other. I mean, you're talking about full screen the whole way through IMAX, which has never been done before, and it is a sight to behold. I know you've seen it in IMAX, but not 70 millimeter. I know your son saw it in IMAX. Did he ever tell you about his experience in 70 millimeter?
No, you want to know why?
Why?
I actively discouraged him.
Okay.
My son geeks out over stuff, and it can be so fanboyish to the point where it annoys.
Okay. I will say my wife had a way better experience at 70 millimeter. Remember, I told you last week that she hated the movie when we saw it in our Dolby Atmos screening here in Clarksville. And we went, I was able to coax her into going to 70 millimeter because of how rare it is. And she actually found the movie a little bit more palatable and the experience to be a lot more fun. So the sound was a little bit actually tamer, I think, in the IMAX 70 millimeter than it was in the Atmos theater that we saw it in. So just wanted to report back. If you can see it in 70 millimeter IMAX, because it was well worth your time and your money, because it is among the greatest film going experiences I've ever had.
Fair enough.
All right.
I'm not driving now all that way.
well, if you ever need to, you have a place to stay. If you ever decide to come down to Middle Tennessee and see it, which I'm sure it'll be in theaters for quite a while. And also, holy crap! On the they showed the Dune Part 3 prologue as well, which was in IMAX, and also it was in standard, 35 millimeter that was non-IMAX. But wow, that looks incredible! Can't wait for that in December. But we do have another blockbuster to talk about this week: Spider-Man: Brand New Day. This is sort of a rare territory. We've seen a lot of Spider-Man movies over the last 27-ish, 25, 26, 7 years. But this is actually the only Spider-Man to get his fourth standalone. So Tobey Maguire had 3, Andrew Garfield had 2, and Tom Holland now has 4. This is number 4, Brand New Day. I know you're a fan. What's that?
He's rumored to be getting 2 more, so he'll have a total.
Okay. So I guess his comments from the Odyssey, where he's not able to play a young boy anymore, is not attributable to Spider-Man, right? Then I guess he can grow up as Spider-Man, I suppose.
Well, in judging from what they did with this iteration, he will be growing up first as Spider-Man, because this is a decided. I mean, take the title literally. It's a brand new day for Spider-Man. Okay. Literally, figuratively, it's the character matures, not to an extreme amount, but it's a natural progression in his development, given the events of the third Spider-Man movie, where he basically had Doctor Strange wipe the memories of his friends and family and anybody who may have known him or remember him. And we meet a very isolated Spider-Man whose only contact is with cops. And in his mask, I mean, nobody really knows Peter Parker. He's Mr. Anonymous. And it starts weighing on him. And that stress leads to an evolution of his powers. And this is a dense story for a comic book movie. An evolution of his powers. And he meets a mysterious villain with the ability to land in an individual's mind. Oddly enough, almost every individual except him. Okay. And director Dustin Daniel Cretton, who did the Shang-Chi movie, has to bring those 3 individual elements into a story that shows the character's evolution, and he does it quite well. Um, and what's really impressive about it is, and mind you, I gave the movie a B plus, was that it's somber in tone, but maintains a hint of optimism. It's intelligent. It's definitely the most mature Spider-Man movie we've seen in this series. Tom Holland gives his best performance as Peter Parker / Spider-Man in this version. And for the first time in a while with an MCU movie, the cameos you expect to get don't feel gratuitous.
Mm-hmm.
They make sense within the course of the movie. For instance, Bruce Banner / the Hulk, Mark Ruffalo shows up. Right. His appearance makes sense. What I really like seeing is John Bernthal as the Punisher, which, given that character, makes less sense given his overall disposition and potty mouth.
Right.
But they're characters that both operate in New York City in the MCU. So there we go.
Right.
And there are more than a few surprises here. And if I revealed another character, it would give everything away. But what's interesting is he has to serve, speaking Dustin Cretton, has to serve two masters. He's got to inhabit that MC universe and move everything forward in some form or fashion to the next film, which is Doomsday. And yet he has to come up with something in the here and now. And he does both fairly successfully. That's it in a nutshell. It's definitely worth a look, especially if you're a fan of the first three. You'll be amazed at how the character has evolved, how the tone has shifted. I mean, even with those first three, with the stakes as high as they were in some of those movies, they all had a playful, jokey atmosphere. You're going to find a lot less of that here. And it serves the story well, and it makes sense.
Yeah. You mentioned, obviously it's been a while, actually, in Marvel years. It's been 5 years since the last iteration of Spider-Man. That was No Way Home. Obviously, they were kind of trying to, I guess, redevelop a new MCU and get prepared on what would have been the Kang Dynasty, which, of course, has gone by the wayside here for Doom. But one thing I've always thought about, though, is when you get a lot of these interminglings in the Avengers movies with especially Spider-Man, and then he kind of goes back now into his own world again, and he's taking on villains that don't seem as, I guess, as powerful as Thanos was, of course. Obviously, Thanos was able to, manipulate moons, and, he threw a moon at Tony Stark, literally, in Avengers. I know, reading up on this, you have like Scorpion is in here, the Hand. I mean, I guess my question is, when you get back into the quote unquote reality of Spider-Man villains, does it make sense that we're seeing Spider-Man go up against villains that, he'll probably be a cakewalk in, because he's literally fought aliens and monsters and gods and everything in between here in the MCU?
Does it make sense in the context of this story? Given the linchpin of the story, it absolutely makes sense.
Okay.
I will say this, that those villains are instruments of a larger perspective.
Okay.
That's the best way to put it.
Okay.
So yeah, I and they're not as much of a pushover given that circumstance.
Right. And are you of the mindset that, you'd want to see two more in this franchise if they decide to go to 6? I mean, do you think it's worth it? Do you think that, they should? I know there's been a lot of talks after the Spider-Verse movie comes out next June that maybe Miles Morales will get live action treatment within the MCU. I mean, wanting to see something like that where they refresh the character a little bit and have something different, or you want to keep seeing Tom Holland web slinging here in New York City?
Well, the word is the third film in the second trilogy will segue into a Miles Morales film. Now, the interesting part is there is a kid that Spider-Man in this movie interacts with that you could harken back to in the future films and say, ask if that was Miles Morales. You know those throwaway things they do.
Yeah. Right.
So there we go.
Okay. All right. So another movie to add to what should be an incredible box office weekend for Hollywood with, given the staying power of The Odyssey, which I think is, just doing an incredible run here at the box office. And as it hasn't even opened up in China yet. And China has already said that they are dedicating a lot of their IMAX screens to The Odyssey, which is a good sign because I think Oppenheimer made well over 140 million from their IMAX screens or from their box office takes. So just imagine the box office run there. And then, of course, Spider-Man should be another expected $1 billion movie as well. So a lot of options now at the end of the summer here for a lot of these moviegoers.
And you know what? The weird part is I feel like after this release, I feel like the summer's over. I really do.
Well, it's literally the end of July release date, July 31st. And you and I both know that August and September aren't exactly, studio cash cows, and they're not putting out their best work in the end of summer. So, yeah, while the summer does, go into September, the release schedule, will be lacking a little bit here in the month of August. And honestly, you're probably going to get a lot of residual box office for the next few weeks here for The Odyssey and Spider-Man Brand New Day as they kind of clean up the lion's share of the release schedule. So another a big one there, and probably one that Marvel is thinking they need, because I guess that's kind of the when in doubt, go back to the Spider-Man well, because those movies have made billions of dollars, and at this point it's more of a guarantee. It's just as much of a guarantee maybe as, say, the Avengers movies, and that's why they're going back to the well with Avengers this year as well, because a lot of their recent standalone trying to redevelop the MCU just have not really resulted in big box office returns. So probably not a surprise that they're looking at a fifth and a sixth film in the Tom Holland Spider-Verse.
No, not at all. And, Disney Disney has nothing to do with this one. This is a film, but right. Disney gets a cut. So
yes,
makes sense.
And I'm sure that they, have a little bit of say in where the directions are going here in terms of making sure that they're making viable box office film, because they do put a lot of money into these movies and they need to make a return on investment, because Disney and Pixar and all these other brands, Star Wars even, with the Mandalorian and Grogu, have had struggled at the box office in recent years. So they need a hit.
Well, Kevin Feige is the executive producer of all of them. So we go.
That is true. All right. Well, I guess going back to the well again, King of the Hill is back for second season in the reboot season, but 15 overall, for a show that began way back in 1997, had a hiatus, came back a few years ago, and it's back again. And I know you enjoyed the rebooted first season. What say you about season 2 here in the reboot?
Binged it in 2 days.
Okay.
Heck, it may have been 1 day.
That means he likes it.
Yeah.
When he does that, people, that means he likes it.
Actually, it only qualifies as 2 days because I left the final episode for the next day.
Okay. So
I could have done the entire series in a day. Okay. But I enjoyed it immensely. And if there's ever an argument for a series going on years-long hiatus, King of the Hill is it, because it's sharpened its wit to, let's try this, the thing that the original series was known for was its observational humor.
Yeah.
Hank Hill and buddies comment on what's going on around them. And in the period of time it was gone, and Hank and Peggy Hill were in Saudi Arabia working with him working in the propane industry, to come back home, there's still plenty, or there's a lot of new stuff for Hank Hill to skewer
Right.
from. And, one thing I could always appreciate about the character, even with him being a staunch conservative Republican, and let's call it an old school staunch conservative Republican, is that a lot of his observations on many issues came from a sense of a perspective of common sense. And it shows Mike Judge has shown he's willing to have the character adapt to the new reality of the United States of America. So, I enjoyed it immensely. There are more than a few laugh out loud moments in season 15, and I'd highly recommend it.
Okay. Well, and another season where it's an all 10 episode dump on the same day, so everybody can binge it like you did as well. So it's good when I a lot of times I get fatigued about some of these reboots and retoolings of shows, but it's refreshing when they do it actually makes sense, but also it's actually good, and it's not just a cash grab, or it's more than that. There's a little bit more depth to it. So it's good when we can, have these types of shows out there that it's part nostalgia, but also it really does move forward in the storytelling, and it's not just a cash grab of nostalgia.
And I don't think this would have succeeded without that. Let's call it a hiatus, I guess. Yeah. I don't think the reboot, the whatever you want to call it, would have had as much success as it's been having.
Yeah. Okay. Well, and wrapping it up this week, this is a show that I didn't expect you to have, actually, President Curtis. So for those of you who are Rick and Morty fans, you would know immediately what this is. Me being one of them, I love Rick and Morty. Go ahead.
I have a question for you, because I quit Rick and Morty in like season 4. Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
President Curtis is of that universe. Correct?
Yes. That he is. Yep.
How often did he appear in that series?
Oh, maybe I don't want to say that I know exactly how many episodes, but it's no more than like a handful, like maybe 5-6 episodes. I mean, he would show up, but Keith David, who voices the character, is such a distinctive voice that any cinephile, pop culture file will know that's Keith David talking as President Curtis. So I think I don't know if at the time they believe that they would ever spin a series off of Rick and Morty that would actually be like this esoteric as far as like the universe goes. But I think that's a testament to like Keith David. Every time he's in an episode, even if it's just like 5 or 6 times, he's always a great part of that episode. So that's probably why he ended up getting this show. But I've kept on with Rick and Morty. Yeah, there are better seasons than there are better episodes than others, and there are sometimes great episodes in a bad season. So it's one of those shows where the longer it goes, and I think right now they're in season 9. So, you're bound to have some stinkers, and you're bound to say, well, it's not as good as it used to be or whatever. But, I will say that anytime, Keith David were to show up in episodes, it was always a lot of fun. And he and Rick were always going back and forth about something. So he was a good foil to Rick. And again, with that distinct voice that Keith David has, I can only imagine that at the very least, the voice casting is spot on. And, Keith David brings a lot of energy to President Curtis. But tell us about President Curtis, though.
I'm sure, given the voice talent, many of whom I've not heard, except for Keith David. I mean, that he's the reason I'm like, the link for this shows up in my inbox. I'm like, okay, I see Keith David. I'll take a look. And he's the reason I started watching. Then it's like, there is an episode where he shows up in the Rick and Morty universe. Rick and Morty make an appearance.
Okay.
And it's like, it all makes sense that the character fits in there, because he's unbridled, uncensored, and take no prisoners. And Keith David is having a blast with it. And he's got an equally gung-ho Secret Service agent who protects him, a neurotic chief of staff who's also part, I don't know if android, robot, or what is the correct term, but they're both there to try to keep him in line, and it's just an overall good time as he takes out a lot of supernatural things on Earth and other places. So
yes, they primarily deal with other places on Rick and Morty quite a bit, which is a lot of fun. And obviously a lot of their episodes, one of my favorite episodes is it's hard to describe the episode. It's the episode where there's literally a universe where Snake Hitler exists, and they have like a Terminator like go back in time to basically have to kill off the Snake Nazi uprising. It's a much like Rick and Morty. It's a very folded on top of each other. They're making like 1,000-layer biscuits basically. But having a lot of fun doing it. Keith David has done 9 episodes of Rick and Morty. So that shows you like how crazy people think about him in this character as President Curtis, that he's been on the show 9 times and yet gets his own spin-off series. And, who knows if it'll have the longevity of Rick and Morty, but it's good to see that he's getting an opportunity to kind of carry something here. And, I know that I'm glad that you liked it, because I think there was a lot of like, Rick and Morty fans probably are a little uncertain about it because maybe the popularity has waned a little bit. And I know they've got like a deal to go to like 10, 11, 12 seasons or whatever for sure before they'd have to stop. But it's good to see that there's a spinoff show that actually, kind of works for it.
And oddly enough, it's a possibility that President Curtis injects a little life into Rick and Morty.
Yep.
By having some success on its own and having the opportunity for more crossover episodes. So
yeah, that's a good point, and maybe it can like you said, it is a nice refresher. If there's ever a character that I thought would get a spinoff, I was thinking Mr. Poopy Butthole would have been a logical spinoff, because he is a weird, fun character that again shows up in a couple of episodes here and there, and just always like steals the show with how weird it is. But good to see that there's something out there for Rick and Morty fans if they want to whet the appetite, maybe get back into the series, or maybe refresh their love for it with President Curtis, because I know a lot of Rick and Morty fans will know exactly what this is, and they will probably watch it, I would imagine, too.
Well, I hope so, because I'm looking forward to season 2.
All right, fantastic. Well, I know next week obviously is it's August, so not a lot on the movie release schedule, especially with Spider-Man Brand New Day coming out. As the Odyssey and Spider-Man will continue to rule the box office here for a few weeks. But what do you have on the horizon next week?
Oh, let's see. Ted Lasso.
Okay.
Back. Let's see. I've started that.
Okay.
Batman the Caped Crusader.
Oh, yes. I remember you mentioning that last week. Okay. So more streaming, more animation here. Excited about that. But as always, and of course, the return of Ted Lasso, I think I'm excited about as well. So as always, you can wait on pins and needles to see if Ted Lasso is more than just a cash grab for another season. I'm hoping that it's great like the first 3 seasons were. And we will find out more next week. George, as always, we appreciate you stopping by. Have fun at home this week, not at the movies. You'll get a chance to stay home and watch some things, unless you decide to go out.
There is a screening next week. Whether or not I make it, whether or not I make it, though, depends on a WNBA announcement in Cleveland Tuesday. So there we go.
What's the release that's getting a screening next week?
It's a rom-com. Let's see. Trying to pull up my email.
Well, I guess Super Troopers 3 is coming out.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. Super Trooper 3 is coming out.
Yeah.
They actually had an old school PA tour for that. That
okay.
Publicity tour that I passed on. The cast was here.
Really? Well, I mean, that's
Super Trooper 3 came out when 2003, I think.
It's been a while, and it's obviously. I mean, I enjoyed the first Super Troopers. It was actually kind of fun and just kind of in a playfully dumb way, but not really a fan of Super Troopers 2. And yeah, Super Troopers 3 doesn't look much better, but I'm sure it's one of those low produced movies for hopefully a decent box office return to maybe profit. But
you wouldn't be calling it a cash grab, would you?
What's that? Well, I mean, I don't know. I'm not really sure. I'm assuming that Super Troopers 2 must have made money. Otherwise, they wouldn't go back to the well. But how much money did it make to be, what is the standard maybe for being considered a cash grab? Because, if it didn't make like $100 million on like a $20 million budget, is it really a cash grab if you're modestly profiting off of a movie? But give it a shot. Look, 2001 is when the first one came out, so it's been a while since we've seen the movie in general, and that was the best of the bunch. And then they did the 2018 is when they had the sequel. So it's just kind of a staggered, weird kind of run here. And again, it has to have made money because I just don't see how it would have been greenlit for a third one.
Yeah, what is it? Broken Lizard? Is that the comedy troupe?
That's the team. Yeah.
Maybe they just woke up and said, "Hey guys, we need some cash." I don't know. That's the cynical part of me. But
here's okay. So it might have ground out a little profit. It was a proposed $13.5 million budget. It only made $31 million. That was the sequel. So the sequel, I mean, that's not really a big enough profit. I mean, the first one was a $3 million budget with a $23 million take. So, I mean, I could see you making a sequel off of that because of the low production versus a decent profit. But I don't know. You're not really doubling your budget / marketing in number 2, I don't think. So kind of an interesting decision here. And, you wonder too, if they got a bigger budget, and if you get a bigger budget, then you got to make more money to make it profitable. So we'll see if this continues the series. But as always, George, enjoy yourself wherever you're at watching something, and we will talk again real soon.